We can't even have a conversation about reparations?
No, we can't. Maybe we should have a conversation about pulling fire alarms though, right? Folks, this is The Brink. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you like me and you like what we do here. And if you love it, you can become a Daily Caller Patriot. There's a link in that description below. I know my voice sounds a little funky. I'm a little sick, but I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. So with family and friends, so much to be thankful for, I'm sure, this year. All right, so Democratic New York Representative Jamaal Bowman, he claims that Biden is losing support amongst black voters because he won't give free handouts. Have a listen.
People of color have been turned off for a while because of lack of comprehensive immigration reform, if you're talking about the Latino community, and no conversation at all about reparations if you're talking about the black community. But we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars every year on weapons and war, but we can't even have a conversation about reparations?
So now, first, I will just state the obvious. Biden is losing support amongst black voters because inflation is skyrocketing, right? People can't buy groceries. They can't buy homes anymore. Their money is being sent overseas while they struggle to stay afloat. But if Biden loses their vote, well, it's simply because
if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
But back to reparations. So history time here. This is one of my favorite topics. And here's the argument that is based on fact for you to use anytime that a liberal tries to say that reparations are needed or possible, or that, you're racist because you don't want to pay someone because you never owned a slave, right? So the Supreme Court and lower courts have consistently ruled that entitlements like reparations are only permissible to remedy discrimination that takes place by the government providing the special treatment. I know that's a little bit wordy here. So basically what it says is that the government of 1865, right, that time period, was responsible for slavery and therefore would have been responsible for reparations. Let's look at two cases that kind of explain this point. So the city of Richmond had a black population of approximately 50% back in 1983, with Richmond officials determining that local, state, and national patterns of discrimination created disproportionate access to contracts for black-owned businesses. So in order to remedy this type of discrepancy they were seeing, the city of Richmond set a goal in which 30% of the city's construction contracts would be given to black-owned businesses. Now, the J.A. Croson Company, which lost its contract because the city mandated that 30% of the contracts had to be given to black-owned businesses, they sued. And the case, known as the City of Richmond versus J.A. Croson & Co., made its way to the Supreme Court. The High Court ruled that past societal discrimination alone was not enough to justify discriminating against white contractors today, right? They wrote, to accept Richmond's claim that past societal discrimination alone can serve as the basis for rigid racial preferences would be to open the door to competing claims for remedial relief for every disadvantaged group. The dream of a nation of equal citizens in a society where race is irrelevant to personal opportunity and achievement would be lost in a mosaic of shifting preferences based on inherently unmeasurable claims of past wrongs, the court ruled. So the ruling determined that the city can't simply say that, slavery happened 120 years ago and there are lasting effects, so now we're going to force white people to kind of pay the burden for something they didn't do. That there was current discrimination, perhaps as a result of slavery, that led to the need for this. But even modern reparationists have trouble proving this, okay? But wait, there's more. So back in 1989, a group of plaintiffs, known collectively as People Who Care, sued the Rockford Board of Education School District. So racial disparities in educational achievement between white and minority students were found to be the result of the school board's failure to prevent public schools from becoming all white or all minority. So a remedial process known as the reorganization plan was created, right, in which racial quotas, amongst other remedies, were put in place. However, all the remedies were introduced, the racial quotas were introduced, and educational achievement didn't change. So nearly a decade later, the case gets settled in the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals, and the court found that the school board was in compliance with the remedies, right, and therefore they eradicated their own involvement in explicit discrimination, therefore nullifying the need for any further action by the board. This is what the court ruled. The Rockford public schools have been desegregated. The reality is that until minority students achieve parity of educational achievement with the white students in the Rockford public schools, the plaintiffs will contend that the minority students are victims of the unlawful discrimination of an earlier period in Rockford's history. Yet, it is obvious that other factors besides discrimination contribute to unequal educational attainment. So what this ruling essentially says is that even with the remedy remedies in place for discrimination, there are other factors that contribute to outcomes, right? As in, even if we have reparations today, would that end the problems facing Black communities? No, because there are other factors that contribute to the problems that they're facing that have nothing to do with racism. Then, of course, you're going to have some people who point to the fact that Japanese Americans who were kept in internment camps during the Second World War were given reparations, and therefore, descendants of slavery deserve the same. They're wrong again. So the Civil Liberties Act of 1988 compensated more than 100,000 people of Japanese descent who were incarcerated in internment camps during the Second World War. The legislation gave $20,000 to each surviving victim. So what's the difference? Well, the program was narrowly tailored. Simply being of Japanese descent did not qualify individuals to receive relief, unlike current reparations plans, which simply says, oh, you're Black? Well, then you're qualified. Those who were compensated were survivors of the internment camps who had been directly affected by the actions of the government. So Democrats, they can continue to dangle this carrot in front of Black voters, right? Promising financial reward in return for, this lever pull. But the reality remains, not only do they literally scarcely deliver, okay? But the case of reparations is nothing more than a fever dream. And Jamaal Bowman knows that, right? He just hopes that Black voters don't, okay? The real concern amongst Black voters is the inflation, right? It is the fact they can't get mortgages because they're so damn expensive, right? It's the fact that groceries are too high. Those are the problems that would, if we can alleviate those problems, not just for Black Americans, for all Americans, honestly, but if we can alleviate those problems, that would be something that helps the Black community, right? Not handing out reparations and penalizing me because I'm white. Right? Simply because I'm white, I have to pay reparations? Absolutely not. I didn't own a slave. I would never own a slave. I think that was abhorrent, but I'm not responsible for something that happened 150 years ago just because I share the same skin color. I mean, that is ludicrous thinking, and that's what those two kind of Supreme Court, the Supreme Court case and the lower court case actually tell us. So folks, use this anytime you get into an argument. Maybe next Thanksgiving when you get into a topic about reparations, you'll have this as ammunition. And folks, look, next week we will not be having any new episodes as far as I know right now, because simply I'm traveling and my schedule is so hectic and I'm on different time zones. So my editor and I cannot work together for next week, but don't worry, I'll be curating some more content. I'm going to have time to read some books while I'm traveling to find some more constitutional history for all of us. So in the meantime, please check out some older videos. You can check out the reels. You can catch me on TV. There will be a way to watch me, folks. I appreciate you all being here. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week.